Welcome to this week's almost abstract weekly outdoor news. I'm one of your hosts. My name's Rob Yates, and I'm joined tonight by my Butch if I'm Cassidy, by my Eve if I'm Adam, by my Ant if I'm Deck, my co-founder of We Get Outdoors, Mr. Mark Hopkins. Hoppy, how are you today?
Your intro starts to remind me of Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear now.
Well, he's a drunkard as well. No, I don't say that live. He's partial to a whiskey or 15 as well.
Yeah. They're getting better, your starts.
They are. How are you today, Mark? What's going on? What do you know? What's new? What's approved?
I've got a hornet problem in my house at the moment. So that makes it quite entertaining when you're trying to, in lockdown, do some exercise and you're walking and I'm 6'4" and I'm not paying attention and I basically piss off a big hive of hornets. So that was entertaining today. I've never run that fast in my life. And monkeys. I had monkey issues again today. Do you know what they're doing at the moment? They're basically going through people's houses, picking up stuff that they want, and then they're going on a rampage through people and then dropping different bits of shit in different pieces of people's garden. I had literally the random stuff in my garden today. A little bit of plastic here. I had a tin of chickpeas, I think, in my garden as well today from monkeys. So yeah, normal day in Africa, really.
Blimey, monkeys in the garden. So this is going to carry on for the future. So I'd like everybody to work out in the comments. You've got to guess today what it is that Mark's going to find deposited from the monkeys in his garden in the next week. And the person closest to the mark will win immense fame, a boost in ego, a mention on the We Get Outdoors, almost abstract outdoor news, and the pleasure of
photo of a monkey
to work out. Hey,
a photo of a monkey. I'll take a photo of the monkey and I'll send it to them.
Awesome. So we've got Amigo joining us. Jen Clough from the UK has just joined us as well. But I have to start this week with one of the most emotive, sad, yet happy things that I've seen in the outdoor news this week. And that is an article of the 2 widowed penguins in Melbourne, Australia. Now, firstly, I have to be honest with you, I didn't think that Australia had penguins. I thought it was just Cape Town, South Africa and Antarctica that had penguins. But obviously they're in Melbourne as well. But this sad story is the tale of...
really suits them as well.
What? Hot, dry and overly masculine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, where would we find penguins? Oh, definitely Melbourne. Really, definitely. It's not about put a shrimp on the Barbie. They now say put a penguin on the Barbie.
And a penguin is African because it's just a zebra of the sea, really, isn't it? Black, white, and
exactly
red all over. And so I'll share the link for these 2 widowed penguins. You have to go and check it out. But they're 2 widowed penguins looking at some fireworks and the stars at night. And they're there with their wings wrapped around each other, giving each other a lovely little cuddle. Now, I have to admit, when I first saw the picture, I clicked on it because I thought, oh, that's cute. And then some asshole journalist ruined cuteness by giving me the truth. Now, I have a problem with the truth because in this day and age, journalists have no right to give you the truth. Now, whenever I jump on CNN, Sky TV, BBC, whatever else, ABC, can't remember any of the news channels, Fox, all I do is I go on there because I want to go and hear the lies that are being broadcast, because that's obviously the job of a great journalist in this day and age. If you can't find the news, just fucking invent it for yourself. However, this journalist chose to tell the truth. Now, what I want to know is, how does he know that the penguins are widowed?
Maybe they put their wedding ring on their different wing.
On their wing?
Well, yeah, they just took it off their one side and then they flipped it over and they would now wear it on the right-hand side, which means that they're widowed.
Oh. And you think that they're clever fellows, those penguins, and they can pick up on that shit?
Well, the journalist is obviously pretty clever.
Yeah, that's true. I'd also wondered whether or not, because they're both widowed, they've both given up on men and decided that they were going to back for the other side with each other. That was another thought that did go through my head. But I have to be careful with these thoughts because they do get me into trouble on Facebook, YouTube, and every other platform on a regular basis. Anyhow, Corey is with us. So by the way, if you're watching this and you want to join the We Get Outdoors news recorded live, you can go and join the We Get Outdoors tribe, shameless plug, free of charge. Come join this live and we will engage with you. So we've got Corey from the We Get Outdoors tribe who's with us. He said they never thought that Africa and Australia had penguins. Always thought they were polar creatures that cannot stand warm temperatures. And well, I'd agree. They definitely don't like the Arctic, but they do like the Antarctic, Corey. And I did know they had them in Cape Town, but Australia is complete and utter new news for me. And so if anybody can find out how widely spread penguins are in Australia, I'd love to know. I mean, are they on top of Ayers Rock? If you drive through the bush in Australia, is that a legitimate road hazard that one could run in front of you and say, stop? Maybe they've watched the film Madagascar.
I just think, to be honest, I think the journalist is just bullshitting you. I think the journalist is going, I have no idea what to write about today, so I'm going to make up some shit because everybody's going to stop and go, what? They have penguins in Melbourne. So I reckon that guy is just properly bullshitting you, to be honest.
I agree. Right. This, I'd like to point out to you all, is my coronavirus mask. Can you still hear me?
Can, but put your mask up. It's so funny because then literally you disappear behind the mountain. It's hilarious.
Really? Hang on, I want to have a go.
Yeah.
Have I gone?
Yeah.
I'm back again. So I want to introduce you to my coronavirus mask. It is my We Get Outdoors buff. Apparently it has no medical value to me at all, but I look a lot more cooler than everybody else on the street. Now, speaking of cool, Hopkins, speaking of cool, I have to admit that I didn't particularly like school, if I'm to be 100% honest with you. People say that school is the best days of your life, and I agree the best day of my life was when I left school. However, this piece of news that we're about to share could have changed all that had it been available when we were certainly when I was a teenager. Can you imagine having your geography lesson?
It is properly cool.
It is properly cool. I mean, can you imagine having your geography lesson taught by one of the most celebrated, is he an anthropologist and naturalist? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Planet
definitely anthropologist.
Earth. David Attenborough. In fact, he's not just David Attenborough, he is Sir David Attenborough, as knighted by the British Queen, is in this lockdown time going to be teaching geography lessons online, free of charge, in the UK, or online for anybody who wants to attend. And I think that's incredible. I have to say, can you imagine how he would present it?
Can you do a David Attenborough voiceover?
I've just been thinking, so hang on, I've got to think about this for a second. So coming out of the slums of Sao Paulo right now is the lesser spotted
Penguin of Melbourne.
Penguin of Melbourne, who got widowed and shamelessly lost herself whilst looking for a new partner in Brazil. The penguin, as you know. Can you imagine that?
Terrible accent. I'm going back to school. Do you ever have those dreams? So I have those dreams which are nightmares that I'm literally back studying. You know, I've done my studying. I did my bachelor's, I did my master's. I've done my studying time, and the formal education stuff, I wake up in cold sweats as if I'm back studying, and I honestly think I'm back in lecture halls. It fills me with absolute dread that I have to at some point go back to university to study more. But imagine I'm going to go back to school just so I can say I've been taught by David Attenborough. That's going on my CV. We Get Outdoors as taught by David Attenborough.
It would be genius. I have to say, there would be a slight danger of you falling asleep after a while, because he is quite like melodic and hypnotic with how he speaks. There's not a lot of like, rah! There's not a lot of that present in it. But I mean, That's the coolest shit I've heard this week, to be perfectly honest with you. We could stop the news now and I would be happy to just go and find, David Attenborough. Jen Clough in the UK says she's run out of booze. Cheers, Jen.
But they can still buy booze in the UK.
Yeah, so there's no excuses, is there really?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. We've got an excuse. We've been in lockdown since, what, 5 weeks now? I've lost count. We haven't been able to buy booze for 5. It actually shows how good planning we were that I still have half the case of Corona left.
Without the virus. Mark, I have to say, you found a really shit story for this week.
I did, and it's probably somewhere that David Attenborough has been to on a few occasions. But the outdoor industry has been obviously whacked by lockdown, with lots of people not being able to get outdoors. And we covered a story a couple of weeks ago about an unemployed guide who was doing some crazy stuff around his garden. Now, I found a story today about guides in Nepal. So these are the Sherpas who go up and down Everest, who obviously now, with the season having been cancelled, are out of a job and unemployed. So what the Nepalese government have done is they've employed them to pick up poo. That is basically their job. So I'm sure we've all heard this thing that base camp of Everest, what they say is the highest rubbish dump in the world, isn't it? That's what they call it. But it's got absolutely everything dumped in there. Obviously, oxygen canisters, beer bottles, you name it, it's just dumped up there. So what they're doing is they're employing these guides to go and clear up after all those lazy bastards who get so proud and brag about them climbing Everest, but can't be bothered to carry all their shit out. Literally, they say just literally leave their shit there. And now there's some poor unemployed guide who's going through there, basically picking up Edmund Hillary's poo.
It's true. They say that Everest Base Camp is the largest dump site. Garbage dump. It's the largest, highest garbage dump on planet Earth. And one of the things they're experiencing, Mark, thanks to global warming, if that's what you want to believe it is as the snow and ice gets less and less going up Everest as the climate gets warmer, they're actually stumbling across tens and tens of frozen dead bodies every year of people who made it up and didn't make it down, or never made it up in the first place. Apparently that's quite common, that you trudge past a dead frozen person as you're on your way up one of the hundreds and hundreds of ropes that go up Everest. So yeah, but my friend Matt Blue in the UK, he did Everest last week. He climbed Everest. That's super cool, isn't it? How do you do that on lockdown?
Genius.
Genius. He put his mountain bike on one of those, what's one of those trainer things that you can have in your living room to get fit on a bike?
Treadmills.
Treadmill.
Oh, those things. Yeah,
you know, there's a
those things you put to the back wheel and then you spin around. Yeah, we've got one. That's
it, one of those. And he climbed Everest from sea to peak on his mountain bike in a day the other week in his living room. I can think of more interesting things to do with my time, like plucking my eyebrows or poking my eyes out with hot pokers. But fair play, because that's a lot of work. Yeah. So I'm
trying to think about the practicalities behind this now. So he's at ground level and he's got his bike. So what did he do? Did he put like a big ramp under his front tire and then just cycled as if he was going up a ramp for 9,000 meters?
I have no idea. And then what would you do? How do you freewheel on the way down?
If we need a photo. I want photographic proof of what he did, because what he might have done is he might have just put it flat and cycled for 9,000 meters and said, I've cycled Everest. But you haven't. You just cycled on a flat road for 9,000 meters. That's not that impressive, let's be honest. It's something called the Tour de France. They do that a little bit more.
That is very true. That is very, very, very true. So,
but here's something a little bit more impressive, though.
Go on, then.
and I'm going to share the link for this. There was this guy who is a bit of a mountaineer and was gutted that he couldn't get outdoors. So he put all his mountaineering kit on, backpacked, he dressed as if he was climbing Everest. So he had beanies, he had everything on. He had his massive backpack. And guess what he did over, I think it was 2 months?
Don't know.
He freaking climbed up and down one flight of stairs.
Repetitively.
In his house, he went up and down. He logged the height of the steps. And I think over 2 months, he climbed Everest up one flight of stairs. He's even got pictures of, you know, at the top of Everest, it gets quite congested and everyone has to wait there.
Oh, yeah, queue for ages running out of oxygen, yeah.
Yeah, he actually had his wife or girlfriend blocking the path as he got to the summit to really recreate what it felt like. Seriously, there's a picture of his wife just blocking the aisle so he can't get up. It was like, they literally, I was expecting like little snow showers coming down. I was expecting him just to crap on the stairs as well, and then a Sherpa coming behind, an unemployed guy to come and clear up his poo. I think they missed a few tricks in that one. I think it could have gone viral if they'd have actually really thought about this.
That is very, very true. There's equally a guy in South Africa here 3 weeks ago who missed an Ironman triathlon. So he ran the distance around his back garden, swam the distance in his 10-meter pool, and then got on his bike on one of those rolling road things and kept going. As I said, hot pokers to my eyes. I could think of nothing worse. The outdoors for me is about getting outdoors. Cool. So this week, Mark, picture of the week. What's happening?
So we've done quite well so far. We haven't had too many lockdown stories, or we haven't mentioned coronavirus too often tonight, even though there was quite a good opportunity when you were talking about journalists lying and disinfectant making your bloodstream cleaner so you'll never get coronavirus. But that's a whole different commentary, which I just find very, very funny. Actually, there are quite a few funny things that are going around. Did you hear that South African minister? I think he's the Minister of Health here in South Africa, who was talking about the need to start stockpiling vibrators to help people get over coronavirus, which I thought was quite entertaining.
I mean, you've got to fill your time with something. So I mean, you know, there's something you can do. There was equally somebody on the news yesterday who said they'd be making an announcement on Thursday, which would be before Friday.
It's just classic. We should put some of these in the group as well because they are brilliant. But anyway, this is how do I say? So the pick of the week is from a new member to the tribe who posted a few photos and shared quite a bit of a sad story. So his wife, unfortunately, has cancer and is in hospital getting her chemotherapy. But obviously with the coronavirus, he is not allowed to go inside the hospital when she's having her treatment. So this gentleman's name is Bill Rathburn. So what Bill does, he drops his wife off, and next to the hospital are a load of trails. So he drops his wife off and he goes on these beautiful hikes and trails around the hospital, and he comes back to pick up his wife and take her home. So to Bill, first of all, all of us like to wish your wife a speedy recovery. But I think the thing that really touched me about this was, even when you're going through challenges like that, just the opportunity to get outdoors and clear your mind. And the outdoors is such a great healer for all of us. So it's just it touched me as a picture. I thought it was there's a cool photos and a nice, obviously not a great story, but a story about how the outdoors heals.
That is beautiful. But ready. Beep, 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 beep. News fresh in, Mr. Hopkins. News fresh in. News fresh in, courtesy of one of our amazing We Get Outdoors tribe moderators, Corey Cortez, who announces this evening that in Arizona, the Forest Service is closed and there's a campfire ban statewide for the rest of the year at this point in time. I'm just going to sigh with that sucks.
Campfire ban. What is, just out of interest, what is the logic behind that? What does a campfire have to do with coronavirus?
Well, I don't know. So they have in the US. There's campfire bans in quite a lot of the parks and national forests and stuff like that,
That
especially
I get.
towards the middle to end of the summer. I'm guessing that they don't want to draw any more on the emergency service because with people who don't put their campfires out properly and they spread into much larger fires.
So basically, it's the few dickheads who don't know what they're doing, screw it up for everybody else.
Yes, that's
And it's basically those few human beings who are useless and haven't watched your amazing video on how to light and look after a campfire.
Yes, that's it.
Talking of which, there's another story which is full of two Muppets who haven't watched one of your videos. Now, how do I say it? Technology. There's a lot of good things about technology. I like how technology is used to make my Osprey backpack better. I like how technology is used to make my sleeping bag better. But there's also certain technology that's just bloody useless. Or in the wrong hands is just blooming dangerous, like a nuclear war in the hands of a North Korean. Not a great idea. But there are these two people who went for a hike who are useless and took nothing with them, basically, and got lost. Why did they get lost? Because they were reading a bloody app on their phone and the app didn't have the trail on it. So they started walking, forgot to look at the app. The app then said that the computer says no. They had no map to read and they had to get rescued.
That is nuts. But the truth is, Mark, I was walking, I was actually backpacking in the Lake District in the UK.
And you got lost in your garden, didn't you?
No.
You went backpacking in your garden and you got lost.
I was on top of Helvellyn in the UK, the highest mountain in the Lake District, with a friend of mine whose name is also
It's not a mountain, it's a hill. It's less than 1,000 meters. It's a hill.
Helvellyn's over 1,000 meters.
In the Lake District?
Yeah.
But anyway. It can't be, because the highest one's only 700 meters in the UK.
No, I think you need to go fact check that a bit. Need to go fact check a bit. Anyway, so we're up on top of Helvellyn.
I'll go ask David Attenborough in my geography lesson.
Go ask David Attenborough in your geography lesson, exactly. We're up on Helvellyn and it's quite high. It's snowing. It's pretty bleak. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And we're sat behind this pile of rocks with the stove going, making a cup of coffee. And then we hear some people coming. So we poke our head around this pile of rocks. And it's a mum, it's a dad, it's three children who are all in jeans and t-shirts, shivering and looking panicked. And they have the AA Road Atlas to the UK in their hands as their map. And the dad says to me, I said, "Are you all right?" He said, "Oh yes, we're going to go and find our way down." I'm like, "Okay, which way are you going down?" And he points towards a ridgeline called Striding Edge that in those conditions is pretty treacherous, especially when you can't see your hand in the face, it's front of your face, it's snowing, it's icy, it's whatever else. And you don't have any decent like boots or warm clothes. He said, "I'm going that way." And I'm like, no. He's like, but that's, I can see the car. That's the quiz as the cloud clears and he has a brief glimpse of the road down the bottom. I see the car down there, so straight to the car. I'm like, don't do it. And I took me 30 minutes of arguing with him to get him to go and walk the long way back to the car, but the way that would actually follow a path and not go down off a dangerous ridgeline. But I have to say, technology in the outdoors is arguably, in my point, the biggest threat to the outdoors and maybe the biggest threat to people's safety in the outdoors, because you only have to run out of batteries or mobile phone service or something else like that, or drop it in a stream, whatever it might be. And suddenly all of that stuff that you're relying on is freaking useless. Doesn't work at all, does it?
it makes you lazy. That's the thing. It's like every person needs to learn how to read a compass. It's not that difficult. And so you need to learn how to read the compass. The other thing you need to learn is, where does the sun rise and where does the sun set? Because then you can pretty much work out where you're going to go and where you need to go. Just stop being bloody lazy. You can't Google, I'm lost up a mountain. It don't work. Even Google can't get you out of the shit if you're at the top of a mountain and you're lost.
That's it. And there's horrible stories. There was a story of a couple who died, and the stupidity. This is a very sad yet stupid story. A couple who died in Snowdonia in the UK the other year. And they'd gone up into the hills with their iPhones to go and have a wander around. They'd got lost in the cloud that had attached itself to Snowdonia. And to stay warm, they took all of the contents off their body and out of their bags that would keep them warm and made themselves a fire.
No.
So they set light to their sleeping bags, their Gore-Tex jackets, their other stuff. And of course, a fire of that stuff will last all of 78 seconds. And then they were still lost. They were still freezing cold. Now they had nothing to keep themselves warm. And they perished.
That is, I've heard some stupid things before, but that really does take the biscuit.
That's it. So my personal stance is, when I go in the outdoors, I want a compass. I want the best paper map that I possibly can have with me. And that varies from location to location. And I do take a little handheld GPS with me. And I do take my phone with me as well, because there's quite a good app on your phone called maps.me. And it doesn't necessarily tell you, it doesn't necessarily have the footpaths and stuff on it. But what it does is it works off GPS, not off cell phone data or cell phone service. And even when you're in the middle of nowhere, it'll give you latitude and longitude and a pin on the map as to where you actually are. And then you can zoom out a bit because you download the map to your phone, and you actually can see where you are. So that phone and a GPS is good, but I think it's a backup. It's not the primary. It's not the primary source. You can use some Google Maps on occasion. If you print them off, that can work, or you can download them to an electronic device. But frankly, anything that relies on battery, I'm firmly against as a primary source of keeping myself safe. There we go. Rant over.
What words of wisdom, Mr. Yates? What word? Lucky I'm sat down, to be honest.
Mark will include with this the link to my YouTube video, which has got some other thoughts on navigation and how to not get lost in the woods or anything else like that. So I'm sure he'll put that in the description when we make it go live. So,
well, I've got no choice now. You just announced it.
That's it. Yeah, well, so Corey chimes in for something very interesting and useful. First of all, he says phone battery is always a struggle when he's outdoors, so he relies on maps. The second thing he says is when he's out and about in Arizona, where there is a fire ban at this point in time, you can't have campfires. Of course, we use fires for all sorts of things. And one of the things we use fires for is to keep large, I want to eat you predators away. Bears, cougars, mountain lions, so on and so forth. So good luck if you're going out and can't have a campfire at this point in time. It may be nice knowing you, but look, at least the animal can't grill you or cook you over your own campfire when they've caught you and killed you. I mean, that's a win, isn't it?
That's deep.
That's deep. Anyway, this is it for this week's weekly news. It's been a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to spend time with you, a pleasure to spend time with my Sundance or Butch if I'm Cassidy. And Mark, any last closing thoughts from you as we end this week's weekly news?
How nice was your Lefroy?
My Lefroy was bloody gorgeous. And I have to admit that I like whiskey as it comes in both spellings. In both spellings, because you get whiskey with an EY and whiskey without the E and just the Y. One is Scottish, and the other one is Bourbon American related. And I thoroughly enjoy. I'm dyslexic. I don't care how they spell it. It just all tastes nice to me.
Well, that is a even more profound statement than you said about your compass and your maps.
Exactly. Right. That's it from me. It's been a pleasure. Come join us the next week for the live edition of the We Get Outdoors Weekly News on the We Get Outdoors Tribe, where there's loads of cool stuff. Go and check out our YouTube channel and everything we've mentioned. And if you've got anything you want us to talk about in next week's Weekly News, send us a message somehow, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it might be, and we will share our view on your news next week. Right, that's it. Bye-bye.